Now available in paperback and Kindle. Vampires stalk the darkness of the Eternal Night. Get your copy of Eternal Night in paperback and Kindle on Amazon.com. One of my viewers has given me some new information regarding the incident that took place at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. Now, on January 13th at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, Shakuria Ellie was recorded in an altercation she got into at Harvesting Grounds, the place where she formerly worked. Now, on the day of January 13th, Shakuria Ellie got into a heated argument with her co-worker over espresso shots at Harvest and Grounds, and this argument got so heated that it led up to the termination of Shakuria Ellie, and Shakuria Ellie was told to surrender her ID from the airport to security, and after she wound up surrendering her ID, she was no longer supposed to be on the premises of Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. And there was supposed to be security that was supposed to have escorted her back to this location, according to some reports, to ensure that she retrieved her belongings. However, it seems like she was all by herself, and that was a major breach of federal security. Now, according to my viewer, they tell me that Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport is the busiest airport in the world, and that Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport is under the jurisdiction of the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. And the U.S. Department of Homeland Security is the one who issues out the badges to all of the people working there, whether they be working on planes or whether they are working on the concourses and the businesses in the concourse. You cannot be on the premises of the airport without proper identification, and you either have to have one form of identification, which is official identification issued by the Department of Homeland Security, which is your badge, or if you are a traveler, you must present a piece of state ID if you are living in the United States, or a passport and a boarding pass to let people know that you are in the airport to do business. This has been the official policy of airports ever since 9/11, because they don't want to have terrorists in any place in the airport or individuals looking to do harm like a mass shooter. Usually at the airport gates, there are security there from the Department of Homeland Security to make sure that the only people who are in the airport are travelers or staff that's supposed to be there. No longer can an individual just come into an airport and just walk around anymore like they did before 9/11. No, usually there is a security protocol, and what happened, according to reports and what my viewers told me, is that there was a major breach of security based on these reports, because according to some reports, this woman, Shakuria Ellie, came there afterward, after she was terminated, and according to other reports, Shakuria Ellie, after being terminated, came back to this business, Harvesting Grounds, to retrieve her belongings. However, there should have been somebody from security to either retrieve her belongings from Harvest and Grounds and bring them back to her, or there should have been somebody there to escort Shakuria Ellie to Harvest and Grounds to make sure that she retrieves her belongings and leaves the premises, because her being in these areas basically is a major breach of security, and it shows how the whole airport of Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport is creating a clear and present danger for all Americans. Because while many people looked at this video going viral as a whole nother example of black women acting ratchet. What is more dangerous to us all is the fact that this airport security has been breached in such a fashion, because as related to these badges, you have to continuously renew them to every 2 years after you do get them, and there is a major vetting process to get one of these IDs, because an individual not only has to go through an interview with the employer to work at the airport, they also have to go through an interview with Homeland Security to ensure that this individual is somebody that can be trusted with working at an airport, which is a sensitive area of our country. Now, Shakuria Ellie basically passed those background checks for that interview and passed the interview for Homeland Security and got issued a badge. However, due to the argument she had her badge taken from her by security, and I'm sitting there wondering how, as related to two situations, how she was allowed to remain on the premises without an ID. If security took her ID, that's one critical issue I have as related to her still remaining on the entire airport property. I mean, how can somebody be allowed to stay here? That's a major breach of security. And the other situation is, if she did come back, how did she be allowed to come back and come onto the airport premises without an ID or a boarding pass once her ID was taken? Again, major breach of security that basically puts a lot of people in danger when you take a look at both scenarios, because here you have an unauthorized person coming onto the premises of the airport and in the airport, and basically a clear and present danger. Again, major breach of security that really needs to be investigated by the Department of Homeland Security, because if this breach of security was allowed, it basically shows that people at the airport, which is the busiest in the world, aren't really doing their jobs and are putting people's lives in danger. Because if an unauthorized hood rat can get through security, then we have an opportunity for a terrorist to be able to get through the same hole in security. And that should trouble everyone since 9/11 happened, because 9/11 happened because of people not really being focused on security. No, they weren't really paying attention, and as a result of them not paying attention, what happened was 3,000 people lost their lives in the tragedy of 9/11, and sadly, almost 20 plus years later, we're back on a road where we're not taking care of our security and taking care of the safety of travelers at the busiest airport in the world. Now, this whole situation, again, people only think about the viral video and the lack of leadership with that beta male at the coffee shop. But what's even worse is the lack of leadership as related to the complete management of the airport, because this woman should have been someone everyone should have been watching. Once she was told that she was terminated, that's when security was supposed to secure her being contained on the premises. That's what they should have been doing. But because you have beta males in leadership roles, they didn't understand their job was to ensure that, okay, once we take this woman's badge, we are to get her property and belongings and secure them, and then ensure that her property is given back to her. And then after her property is given back to her, what is to be done is she is to be escorted out of the building to the parking lot, where she is supposed to be taken to her vehicle, and she is supposed to be escorted off of the premises and told that she is never to return to these premises in any sort of condition unless she is traveling with an ID and a boarding pass. That is what an effective security leader would have done to maintain the security of Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. Unfortunately, this was not done, and this basically put all of the travelers there in jeopardy because, again, if this woman could breach security as related to returning to that place of work, then a terrorist could come in or a mass shooter and could possibly participate in violence that could put people's lives in jeopardy. And that should be the thing that really makes you think as related to what the dangerous situation that took place at this airport. Because while many people are upset, again, about this beta male manager not being able to manage and supervise this woman, we should be more concerned about this, situation regarding security, because with all of these undocumented migrants who have not been vetted at the border or had their backgrounds checked flying through Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport as a result of the migrant crisis, where we have individuals being flown there by possibly New York Mayor Eric Adams and other Blue Party mayors, we have a major security issue. And again, a major security issue that could turn into a tragedy if Americans are not being vigilant and aware as related to the dangers they're being put in by incompetent leadership that doesn't really take their job seriously. Because what's happening here is a direct result of management not taking things seriously at Homeland Security, because you would think after the tragedy of 9/11, you would want to be focused on being very diligent about making sure that Americans are safe, but they're not really focused on that. And while people were caught up in all of the craziness of this hood rat going berserk, what this is an indicator of is, again, a failure of leadership, and it could lead to a more serious tragedy. And unless Homeland Security gets real serious, we could possibly have a tragedy happen on this airport, because in addition to this breach of security from this woman trespassing on the property, there are reports that there are IDs missing. This is what I have been told, and that's again another dangerous thing. So it's a really troubling situation, and it's a really troubling situation at the busiest airport in the world. And while people are looking at this situation, again, with this black woman acting ratchet, there are individuals who are running the airport who are more ratchet, and that should concern most Americans. It should concern most Americans that you have an airport with major security issues, and that these security issues are not being addressed. Again, this is an airport run by the Department of Homeland Security, which is currently mismanaging the migrant crisis all across the country. And we have a major security situation. And this is all troubling because, again, if this black woman could breach security and come onto the premises of a coffee shop there, then there's no telling what one of our enemies would do if they could get through one of these holes in security. Now, this video is based on information given to me by a viewer, and I wanted to make this video as a follow-up because I see the clear and present danger to national security. So that's why I made this video following up what happened over at that airport, because what happened over at that airport is no laughing matter, and it's a major, clear, again, present danger to all of our security. And the last thing I want to see is another tragedy like a 9/11 or a mass shooting happen at one of these airports because people are not on their job. And now, if you want to see me make more videos about certain topics, you can send a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App. And you can send that by clicking the link in the description box. And if you want to pick up some of my books on the SJS Direct imprint, you can find all of those books in paperback and Kindle format on Amazon.com by clicking the link in the description box, and there you can pick up a lot of positive black fiction on the SJS Direct imprint. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, E-Steam Horror of the Hyena Woman. Hell's aspiring angel takes on a wicked werewolf in this action-packed all-new E-Steam series adventure. Get E-Steam Horror of the Hyena Woman in paperback and e-readers today. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.